In this video, we're going to talk about how to step your foot through between your hands. You know the drill. This one right here, where you take your leg up, you pull it through, and then you step it forward. Only when you try it, you sort of go like this, and then your foot gets stuck halfway, and you have to awkwardly grab it and step it to the front of your mat before you go anywhere else. That's what we're getting into today. There's a real big misconception that this transition has to do with the length of your arms. I am guilty of using that excuse at the beginning as well. Rest assured, it's got nothing to do with the length of your limbs. Yes, if you have long legs and short arms, it might be trickier, but it does not stop you from doing it once you understand how the transition works. We can break down this transition into 3 unique parts: what your hips are doing, what your hip flexors are doing, and what your shoulders and your arms are doing. So I'll break down all 3 parts, and then we're going to talk about how to modify the pose and how to work with the body that we have. Because as I start talking, you're going to go, wait, but my body parts are in the way of doing that. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that as well. So the first thing that we need to understand is the height of the hips makes a huge difference, right? Notice when I take my leg up and I come forward, I'm keeping my hips really high. What most people do is they'll lift the leg up. As they come forward, they'll drop their hips into plank pose. And can you see how, no matter what I do with this foot, it's going to get stuck because my hips are really low. So we want to keep the hips as high as possible through the whole transition. So you're going to come high onto your tippy toes, try to lift your butt even more from there, and then take a leg up and maintain the height of the hips as you shift forward. And that will allow you enough space to clear the foot. So hips high is a requirement. If you drop your hips, boom, there goes the foot. Number 2, hip flexion. What's hip flexion? Hip flexion is your ability to bring your thigh towards your chest. Yeah? Active hip flexion, meaning we're not using an external tool to pull the thigh to your chest. You got to do it using your hip flexor muscles. And if you're lacking hip flexion, or if you simply don't know that you're supposed to do that, that's also why your leg might be hanging down and hitting the floor. So we can train hip flexion from tabletop. Yeah, you can pull your knee up to your chest, lower it down, pull it back up to your chest, lower it down, pull it back up. Do that a few times before you try the transition, so you tell your brain, this is what I want you to do when we add all the other pieces together. You can also do this in plank pose. Hug your knee to your chest, lower the knee, lift the knee, lower the knee, lift the knee. And you can practice also lifting your hips so that you get both pieces, the hips high and the hip flexion, because you're going to need both pieces, right? So pulling the knee to your chest actively and keeping your hips high. The next and third piece of this transition is your shoulders and your arms. For this, we need to engage our push strength. Most of us have enough push strength, and I'll talk about what to do if you don't. But think of push strength as what happens in a cat-cow, for example. If we arch our back here in cow, cat pose is the opposite, right? Cat pose is pushing the ground away, rounding the entire spine, spreading the shoulder blades wide apart. And what allows us to spread the shoulder blades wide apart is these muscles here that look like fingers, your serratus anterior, are pulling your shoulder blades around the sides of your rib cage to engage that push strength. So we want to have that really engaged here as we come forward. So you can practice this with me from tabletop. Allow your shoulder blades to squeeze together and then push the ground away. Counter that, round your back, and imagine there's something icky on the floor and you want to get your chest as far away from that as you can. Do that 2 more times. Drop your shoulder blades together, squeeze, and then push the ground away. Dome your upper back and spread your shoulder blades wide apart. 1 more time. Feel the sinking action. A lot of people try to do the transition from here and there's no push power whatsoever. And then push, 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 push. So this idea of pushing the ground away as hard as you can, along with the hip flexion, along with the hips high, together create this transition. So I'll show it to you and talk you through it, and then we'll talk about modifications and what to do if your body parts don't line up that way. Okay, so from your down dog, you're going to take a leg up, come to the tippy toes, keep your hips high, start to pull your knee to your chest. How much active hip flexion can you get? Now start to push the ground away, round your upper back. Look how far away I'm getting my chest from the floor, and bam, I'll be able to step it through. Yeah? So all of those things together happen at once. Okay? Now you might be like, Nat, that's really cute, but I have boobs and or I have a belly. I'll tell you a little secret. I spent 14 years with double D breast implants that I had removed in 2018. So I have personal experience with my boobs getting in the way of my thigh. So if that's a problem for you, I get it, and I'm going to tell you what to do now. And this is also true if you have a belly, okay? Because it's true that sometimes our body parts can get in the way. But does that mean we just can't do a pose? No. We go, okay, what needs to happen? What's my body preventing from happening? How else can I make this happen? So this is the else, okay? Instead of going through the middle, my belly and boob people, where you're gonna bump into yourself, you're gonna go around, okay? So instead of knee to chest, you're gonna go kind of dog peeing on fire hydrant a little bit. And you're gonna do the same thing. Hips high, flexion, pull it tight to your rib cage, push the ground away, shift forward, shift forward, shift forward, shift forward. Place your foot outside of your hand. Once it lands, wiggle it back to the center, and then off you go to wherever the yoga teacher's taking you next. Okay, I'll show that one more time. The leg goes up, you bend the knee, pull it slightly outside of your rib cage. Forward, 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 push the ground away, step it, and then heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe that foot back into position for where you're going next. Now, if you're like, yeah, okay, but I don't want to wiggle my foot. The reason I'm bringing this up is I have students who tell me that all the time. Well, I don't want to take my foot to the side and wiggle it to the middle. I want to do it the proper way. And this is where we have to go, say thank you to your ego. Because if you literally have body parts in the way, you're bumping into yourself. So you could keep bumping into yourself until you're blue in the face, or you could take the easy route. Go around and then move your foot back to the center. Is that how it's instructed in yoga classes? No, but that's literally why I'm here, because I don't want you to use your body as an excuse for why you can't do what you want to do. There are ways to modify everything to make it work for any body, and that is my jam. By the way, if you really love this kind of nitty-gritty breakdown, you're going to love my no bullshit yoga pose library. I do this kind of breakdown with over 90 poses. You can find the link in the description. So now let's talk about what if you are missing something? The biggest thing that someone could be missing for this transition is push strength. Yeah, for some of us, we have to build that. We have to train it. If you've been practicing yoga for a while, you have push strength. You use it every time you do plank pose, every time you do down dog, every time you kick up to handstand or pincha or whatever. But if you're new to the practice, you might not yet have really trained your shoulder blade muscles, your pushing muscles, even your pec muscles to push, okay? So what we can do in a case like that is use some blocks. There is no shame in the prop game, zero. I love props because they give us access to things that could otherwise be inaccessible, and they change our relationship to gravity and to the floor. So even if it is accessible for you, you should still try stuff with blocks. You're going to discover a whole new world. Things feel completely different when we prop them, okay? So if you're going to use blocks, this is good for those of us who have some belly and some boobage in the way. This is good for some of us who are lacking a little bit of push strength or lacking a little bit of hip flexion, yeah? If you're doing all the things that I said and your foot is still getting stuck, use the blocks. You're not going to need them forever, but use them at the beginning, okay? And if you're going to use blocks, use them properly. Grip them like you mean it. No lazy, dead hands on the block. Jazz hands. Grip your thumb around the side of the block, your pinky finger around the other side, and hold it with control. Okay? Blocks shoulder distance apart. Leave enough room in the center for your foot, and then off you go. You're back in your down dog. You're going to lift one leg up, start to bend it, hips stay high, knee comes to your chest, engage that hip flexion, start to pull, push the ground away, round your upper back, and sneak that foot through. All right, and one last thing I want to speak into is what happens if your hand lifts a little bit. I got called out on Instagram the other day because I posted a video of this and someone goes, but your hand lifted. I'm like, yes, and where is the yoga police? Come handcuff me, okay? And this is what had happened to me in that particular video. I had gone here, and as I stepped my foot through, my hand lifted just a smidge, just like that. And the person was like, fail, that's not good. we have to ask ourselves why, right? Is there a requirement for the hands to stay completely flat? Not really. This is just a way to get to the front of the mat. There's no rule that says your hands have to stay flat. Yeah, so if your hand picks up a little bit as you make the transition, it's fine. If your hand picks up all the way and you essentially replace your hand with your foot, also fine. And if you want to keep your hands flat, and you have a good reason why you want to do that, then work to push, push, push even more and pull the knee up even more to try and clear your foot without lifting the hand. But if you come to my classes, you'll never hear me harp on you about that, because that hand lifting up has zero to do with the transition. Here, we're building body awareness. We're understanding the lifting of the hips. We're understanding hip flexion. We're understanding pushing the ground away. All things that you're going to use in other places in your practice. Having your foot right next to your hand with your hand and your foot both on the floor, not really something that shows up a lot in your practice. So take the pressure off of yourself. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoy this kind of breakdown, I invite you to check out my no bullshit yoga pose library. I geek out on this stuff. I geek out on making poses accessible to all bodies. You can check out the link in the description below or comment no BS and I will send you the link. I will see you in the next video. Happy yoga-ing.